Good morning, guys. Mike, aka Crypto Jewels. All right, time for our daily Bitcoin update. So I'm going to start off again here on the higher time frame, just to give everybody who is new to this channel or who has forgotten, which we talked about this on Monday, but going to go over it one more time. The higher time frame zoomed out. I believe this is what we have got working, which is currently a potential 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to finish our larger degree 3 wave, and then a 4 and then a 5. I believe our 3 right here is going to take us to around $69,000 or so. And our 5th wave, as of right now, is targeting about 127. Keep in mind, these two numbers can certainly change, and they will be refined and redeveloped as price moves and as this wave starts to unfold. These numbers and these targets are just currently based off of typical Fibonacci levels, based on this current count. So, it can morph a little bit and it can change a little bit, but ultimately, this is, what I'm expecting roughly to happen. So that's my higher time frame zoomed out perspective. Now zooming into the weeds a little bit, as you guys can see, I do have this, trend line, which, in Bitcoin's history typically creates a parabolic advance of some sort. So at some point, I would expect this to, keep, getting less steep, I guess, and developing more of a hockey stick shape, compared to a more drawn out extended trend line. So at some point, I do expect a new trend line to begin. But ultimately, this trend line right now has held up very well and is likely to, create our parabolic curve, if you will, for this cycle. We can extend. This is really our from a parabolic move standpoint. If we do extend this trend line here, this ultimately would be my main support. If this does break down, I would expect this trend line to hold, really at minimum, if this is going to indeed form some sort of a parabolic advance, which I assume it will at some point. So that is just, another technical analysis or TA trend line indicator that I keep on my charts, during bull cycles for our parabolic, trend line to kind of come into play, which historically with altcoins, with crypto, usually we have parabolic advances that retest those trend lines, and also, like I said here, create a new trend line. For example, if we extend that out, that's our ultimate support. But from this point here, a new trend line developed, and I believe at some point a new trend line will develop again, maybe off of this low or possibly off of this low. It just really depends, where we bottom. But if it starts here, that can start trending out to be, our new trend line support. And obviously, if it breaks, then you've got this trend line as your backup, and then ultimately that trend line as your backup. So, that's just another tool that I use, but nothing of high significance at the moment. So anyways, diving into the details here, not a whole lot's changed. I do believe we are working on our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have our 5 wave in place, and we are working on our 1 wave of our 3 wave of our 3. So this would be a 1 of 3 of 3. And currently, I do think I'm leaning towards, yesterday we talked about this possibly being a 4 wave still. Here, let me, we'll zoom in a little bit. So yesterday we talked about this possibly still being a four wave, which is this support zone here, 30,400 to 30,643. I'm really leaning towards the bottom being in, with this actually being a five wave down and this being our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or I'm sorry, that's not accurate. This being our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and then this being an A, B, C up for our B wave, and then we'll have our final C wave down. So ultimately, that currently is my bias, and my primary is that we do have our bottom in here with our A wave and are working up for our B wave now. That B wave is currently targeting roughly, actually this 30,400 to 30,600 zone. Even though that is in this four wave support, I still, just the way this structure is unfolding, I still believe, I'm gonna remove this actually. I'm gonna remove this count and move this up. I'll leave this A here just in case we do end up getting rejected and somehow forming an ABC, a larger ABC. But ultimately, I do think that this count is the one that's going to play out. But this is targeting, really somewhere shy of the 50% to 61.8% retracement level. But B waves are the most difficult waves in Elliott wave to trade, and the most difficult waves in Elliott wave to determine what's going on. And really, ultimately, that's because a B wave is a corrective move no matter what. You cannot have a five wave impulse as a B wave. So this thing could morph into so many different corrective patterns and really fake you out pretty good. So you could have an overshooting B that goes, above 786. You could have a short B that falls below 50% retracement level. It could do all sorts of different things. But if this is just a typical zigzag ABC up for our B, ultimately it's targeting between 30,458 and 30,625, which is the 1.0 and 1236 extension of our A and B. So that's the area that I would start to look for a rejection. But again, it can certainly move higher, and could target this retracement zone here, 50% to 76% of our entire A wave down, which is 30,659 to 31,319. So ultimately, I believe that we are in our B wave, and once we do reject, we will come down for one more final, C wave down. And currently, if we reject here at the 61.8% retracement level, I'm targeting that C wave to reach about 28,600 or so. As we talked about this trend line here, it wouldn't surprise me if we did get down and retested this trend line. This trend line is, really sitting nicely at the 50% retracement level of this wave one. So, there's a lot of confluence, obviously, here for this thing to retrace down to that trend line. But as I did talk about, within these parabolic advances, these trend lines do get cut off, and they develop sharper, more steep trend lines as it goes. So it could develop a trend line like such, and then come down after we top in our three wave and retest it with our four wave, and then develop a new trend line, a more steep trend line from there. But that's yet to be seen. And there's really no solid, technical or way to predict whether or not you're going to have a steeper trend line or not. Ultimately, it just depends on where you bottom. And then once you put in a five wave structure from that bottom, then you could probably assume that you would have a new, trend line basis. But either way, I'm ultimately believing that we are in our B wave, and we will have one more final C wave drop. Well, we'll see what happens. See y'all later.